Welcome to the Sykes & Company PA video blog.
So there's several structures a pharmacy can have when starting up or getting started. Uh, First and foremost, you have a sole proprietor. That is where you're just, everything's registered under your name, etc. You report on a Schedule C on your personal tax return, and everything just flows and is reported on your personal tax return. One of the issues with the sole proprietor is they're always under scrutiny by the IRS. So we do not like sole proprietor Schedule C pharmacies because of the large amount of revenues that are being reported on a Schedule C and the implications with the IRS, because the IRS sees Schedule Cs as targets. So we don't like to see a pharmacy as a sole proprietor Schedule C. You also have partnerships. Sometimes partnerships are a valid method for setting up a pharmacy, but the situation has to be correct. I mean, you have to make sure you're taking into consideration all the different components and variables that you're working with. In some cases, it is a valid method. But you do have to worry about self-employment tax, which is quite substantial on all the net income of a pharmacy under a partnership. And then you also might have some liability issues if that partnership isn't set up correctly, as a limited partnership, for example. So you need to make sure you're working with someone who understands the partnership role with pharmacies. Then you have a C corporation. C corporations are they've gained some popularity with tax reform because of the lower flat tax rate of 21%. But generally speaking, we do not like that either because you're still getting double tax. A lot of pharmacies take distributions out of the pharmacy. We're still looking at a double tax there upon those distributions or dividends. And that's double tax, and that's going to push that rate from 21% over probably 30% when you take into consideration the double tax there. Furthermore, when you do sell the pharmacy way down the road, you're looking at double tax on, well, goodwill and script value once you pull that out. So depending on how that purchase or transaction is structured. So C corporations, you need to be wary of as well. Typically, we don't like those either. Another option is the S corporation. And S corporation clearly are the most popular. You get the corporation shell. You get the liability protection with the S corporation. Everything flows through to your personal tax return when reporting income, expenses, etc. So that's the common method of choice for pharmacies is the S corporation role. But there's a lot of formalities with a typical S corporation. Including minutes, keeping records, et cetera, et cetera. So there's some formalities there you need to be aware of. And then the last one we typically see, the one we typically like, the one we typically set pharmacies up with when we're handling pharmacies is an LLC, which is a limited liability company. The LLC structure provides the liability protection to the owners, keeping the issues outside of the owners themselves. For example, under the sole proprietor we touched on earlier, the liability to that owner is unlimited. So if anything happens in that pharmacy, they're going straight to that owner. Limited liability, it's a shell. It's going to protect that owner. You do need to make sure you're working with the state or your attorney in your state to make sure it's going to cover all the bases, which typically they do, but that's something you need to be aware of. And then once you schedule that liability LLC, you can then determine how to tax it. So we can tax it as a S corporation, C corporation, etc. Typically, we're going to choose that S corporation tax structure, which flows through the personal tax return. So those are the main ways to set up a pharmacy. But again, we like the LLC tax as an S corporation, but you do need to consider all options.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, we invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel.